City Council meeting for Monday, February the 14th. And the first step will be to call the meeting to order. And I'd ask Ms. Harrison if you could walk us through, please, any late items.
Thank you, Your Worship. Late items 3, 4, 5, and 6 from item 11M, staff reports, unsightly premises, property maintenance bylaw 1990, number 3704, One Chapel Street, 187 Commercial Street, 167 Commercial Street.
163, I believe.
163 Commercial Street, and 540 Milton Street. And also amend the wording in item 13B under reconsideration of bylaws, OCP Amendment Bylaw 2011, number 6500.014, to read, to permit a 5-unit multiple family residential development rather than a 7-unit.
Thank you very much. Could I ask for an adoption of the agenda as amended? Sorry? Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to move that we move items 20 up to the delegation instead of making them wait till the end of the meeting.
Okay. Second motion. Moved and second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Move the agenda as
circulated as amended. Yeah, okay. Seconder? Moved and second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Adoption of minutes?
Move adopted as circulated. Second.
Moved and second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item on the agenda is a presentation, and it's going to be by myself, and it's going to be actually to announce the renaming of the BMX track at Bevan Park. And, I just want to say that on behalf of our council and the City of Nanaimo, it gives me great pleasure to recognize the efforts of the late Ms. Marie Davidson by naming the BMX track at Bevan Park the Marie Davidson BMX Park. From all accounts, Ms. Davidson was a tireless volunteer and advocate of not only the sport of BMX, but also for children and youth of this community. The legacy of her efforts is not just the name of the park itself, but the joy it brings to riders and spectators that enjoys the thrills and the sport of BMX. I'm honored to be the mayor of a community full of volunteers such as Marie Davidson, who make this community that much better a place to live. Thank you to Marie's family for supporting her in this passion. Thank you also to Nanaimo BMX, who is here with us tonight, for their ongoing efforts to carry on with the promotion of the sport and the sport of the youth of our community. So having said that, I maybe I could ask if Marie's family, Mike Davidson and his wife, would like to step forward, and it is on the presentation. Oh, we have BMX, we have the whole, so come on the front here. Oh, you're not supposed to see this yet. You didn't see it. Oh, fine. So anyway, it does give me a great deal of pleasure. As I mentioned earlier, your mother did an absolutely incredible job, not only in promoting BMX as a sport, but in her legacy she left behind for all the many young people that she supported as well. But tonight it's to celebrate the BMX portion of her endeavor, and that is I'm very, very proud to present the sign for the Marie Davidson BMX Park. Mike, would you like to say a few words?
Sure, thank you. I'd just like to say thank you to Mayor Rattan and Council and the City of Nanaimo for supporting this legacy and this memory of my mother. She truly was there for the kids. She always has been, and we hope we can carry that legacy on. We do have Representative Randy Little and his daughter Amanda, my wife Kathy here, and a couple of grandchildren, Trevor and Jason, and we truly do appreciate this effort of the city to help remember Mom. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Well done. I think it's just such an important legacy, so we can, we're going to get a picture now. Crunch in. Good. Thanks. Thanks, Mike. Thank you very much. It's so important when we look at some of the quality of volunteers that we have in our community. Marie Davidson certainly typifies the absolutely top quality people that volunteer their time and make Nanaimo a much better place for all that they do. And again, a big thank you to the Davidson family. Okay, we'll move along with delegations pertaining to agenda items, up to 10 minutes, dealing first of all with the 2011-2015 financial plan. Seeing none, we'll move into the mayor's report on LED signs. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course. So, it's item 120. Let me just quickly pull that up here. And 20A is Mr. Will Franklin, 945 Howard Avenue, to receive the returned City of Nanaimo flag. And Mr. Franklin, are you here? And this is part of the Operation Nanaimogram on behalf of the city and the Vancouver Island Military Museum. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure to be here on Valentine's Day. On behalf of Operation Nanaimogram and the Vancouver Island Military Museum Board, I'd also like to just say thank you to our fellow committee members, Andy Hagan and Joe Hazelzet, who helped on our small but omnipresent Nanaimogram committee. What happens when 3 people on a committee at Vancouver Island Military Museum get a vision to send greetings to Canadian soldiers in Afghanistan? Operation Nanaimogram. Endorsed by City Council in March 2010, our mission was simple: to send a City of Nanaimo flag signed by city groups and their representatives, and books of greetings full of support and goodwill to let soldiers there know of our support for them. For public signings, and there's our flag. For public signings, we traveled to malls, churches, to our sponsors' businesses, service clubs, and even military vessels and bases. I'm pleased that all of our politicians and representatives signed the flag. It was quickly evident to us that we had struck a chord with Nanaimo residents, because 2 months later, we brought 7,000 messages and the flag signed by all the major organizations, clubs, and employers in Nanaimo back to City Council for send-off. And with the help from Nanaimo's own 748 Communication Squadron, the books and flags made the 16,000-kilometer trek to Kandahar. I was personally very excited to see a photo of the flag raised over Camp Nathan Smith in Kandahar. It was a proud moment, but the best was yet to come. And some people in our books of greetings wrote one line, and some wrote one page. Through the CF Canadian Forces Chaplains Branch, our books of greetings and our flag traveled all over to forward operating bases, flight crews, bomb disposal units, on missions inside a Chinook helicopter, reminding our troops that we're keeping the home fires burning, supporting them till they return. They not only got to read our good wishes, but they could express themselves to us on a return flag. That is why I'm so pleased that this is Valentine's Day. We have a special card for you from Canadian troops in Afghanistan. It's signed by 100 soldiers, and we call it our flag of 100 heroes. And if we could bring that in. We want to be very clear that they represent all Canadian forces, who have been deployed on Operation Athena to our mission in Afghanistan since 2006. So we have 100 signatures and messages on the flag, all ranks in both official languages, most of the regiments that are represented in Afghanistan for Canadian troops, and most of the locations. We know from the photos and emails and the messages on the flag that it was deeply felt and appreciated over there. Padre Scorsoni wrote to us, "Thank you so much for the Nanaimogram. We have distributed the journals to our soldiers, and we have shown the flag to them that you sent us. We also put the flag, the other flag you sent us, in one of our Chinooks and went on operations with them. Thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to us. I can't tell you how much it made everyone smile." And now I'll turn it over to Roger Bird, our president.
Good evening. Here are just a couple of messages from the flag. Merci de votre appui, Corporal Turgeon. It was a pleasure to fly your flag around Afghanistan, showing your support for we who are there. Everything was greatly appreciated. Thanks to you all. Jay Fair, Captain Flying Chinooks. It's always good to know you morally support us, Stephanie Bastian. We are always thinking about home. Glad to know you are thinking about us. To conclude, we would like to present the returning Flag of 100 Heroes on behalf of all citizens. As far as numbers go, 7,000 messages, 27,000 kilometers, 100 signatures, 3,000 soldiers deployed in Afghanistan. 30,000 were deployed since 2006. And most importantly, the 155 fallen soldiers who paid the ultimate price to bring peace and freedom to Afghanistan. One flag, priceless. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, Mr. Franklin, thank you. Cam, do you want to do another photograph here? And we'll, I think I can leave the mic there because I think we'll just simply say so thank you. But if the gentleman would like to come forward and we'll get a picture. Sure. On either side. Okay, if you want to step forward, you have some, no, straight. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for helping. Appreciate it. Now, the next delegation, I'm not sure if the lady is present, Ms. Hannah Dunbar at 136 Newdale. It was regarding dog parks in Nanaimo, and I was told that Ms. Dunbar may not attend. And the last delegation is Mr. Siggy Wolf, 4250 Hammond Bay Road, regarding the proposed cell tower installation. All right. Sorry? Okay. Do you want to do this now while we do all the delegations? Because you brought forward all three, did you not?
Your worship, if the person came later, Mrs. Hannah Dunbar, thinking she was later, we could fit her in at the end.
Okay, I understand that I was told she may not now. She got the information she needed, I think. But, sir, Mr. Wolf, if you'd like to come on down now, and you have a choice. It's either now or you have to wait for quite some time at the end of the day. So I think that's best.
These packages I'm going to hand out to you. Sure. They look big, but they're not as bad as they might. These are documents we're going to touch on, so we're just going to sort of go through them, but this way you'll all have the information to review later, because there's quite a bit of it.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Now remember, you have 10 minutes, and we also want to advise you, I'm sure you're aware that TELUS is currently initiating a consultation process, and there is an argument in favor of allowing this to proceed, as the residents do have the opportunity to address their concerns directly to TELUS. So, you know, and obviously this is also an issue that the RDN would probably have a bigger involvement than the City of Nanaimo does, because it'll be adjacent to their property, but I'm sure you're aware of that as well.
Yeah. I wanted to speak here just because the councillors all here are part of the RDN as well, correct? I left my note up there. All right, so I'll have to wing it. So the first, if you open up your packages, well, we're just going to sort of flip through the documents as we go. And I'm going to show that there's a bit of a problem with the process. You referred the process with TELUS, and we're going to have a look at that now. And I'm going to show also that I think it's just too much of a health risk to put this tower that close to Hammond Bay School. So the first thing we'll do is establish where the tower is going to go. Here's the first document is from the Regional District of Nanaimo, shows the approximation of where the tower will go. If we flip to the next page, here's a map showing the approximation of where the tower will be and distances to the areas around it. And you can see to the closest building of Hammond Bay School, we're looking at 200 meters. So if we look at the next document, this is Health Canada's position on cell towers. And essentially this document says, as far as Health Canada is concerned, they're safe. There's nothing to worry about. However, if you look at the second page of this document, you'll see, highlighted near the top, that Health Canada uses a weight of evidence to determine the regulations of Safety Code 6. And Safety Code 6 is the document that the cell industry works off of as their parameters of what they can admit. The problem is the weight of evidence only looks at one side of the equation. So if there are 20,000 studies that say it's safe and there are 6,000 studies that say it's not safe, they disregard the 6,000 studies. And in actuality, in April of last year, Magda Havas, who's a PhD at the Trent University, did testify or state in the House of Commons that there are 6,000 studies out there showing ill health effects from cell towers, and mostly within the 300 to 400 meter range. Outside of that circle seems to be safe, but there's an awful lot of evidence showing not. So we flip to, actually one more thing in this document is, further on in the document, it also states that Industry Canada is the regulator of the cell phone industry. And so if we flip to the next one here, this is an actual excerpt of Safety Code 6. And it shows TELUS, which runs their 3G network at 1900 megahertz, is allowed to emit power density of 10 watts per square meter, which converts to 1,000 microwatts. So I have this microwatts per square centimeter. So microwatts is basically what most of these studies are looking at. They're allowed to emit 1,000. So keep that number in your mind. If we flip to the next document, so Health Canada in their last document just said that Industry Canada is the regulator of the industry, overseer and regulator of the industry. first page, if you flip into it, the mandate of Industry Canada, in a very long, drawn-out sort of way of saying it, summed up, their mandate is to promote business in Canada. So if they're promoting the business and they're supposed to regulate it at the same time, they're actually in a bit of a conflict of interest, which one questions if they would really look at the lesser science that is pretty powerful on its own right. The next thing in this document, a little farther along, I believe it starts on page 5, but the interesting stuff is on page 6, is the public consultation process is mandated by Industry Canada, so TELUS has to do it. They are only supposed to notify anyone within 3 times the height of the tower, which the tower is going to be 43 meters tall, so we're looking at, let's call it 150 meters, just to be on the safe side, which is nobody. So by Industry Canada standards, they don't have to notify anyone that this is happening. They don't have to have the public consultation because nobody's close enough to have to do it. So it could, my worry is that they might sort of slip through the cracks. The other thing is what I'm talking about here right now, Safety Code 6. In this document, it says it a little farther down on page 6 where it says concerns that are not relevant include issues with Safety Code 6. In other words, if you have any health concerns, TELUS can deem it an irrelevant question and not address it. So basically the public consultation process is just about what's it going to look like, where's the fence going to be, that sort of thing. So any health concerns that a lot of people have are not part of the process. They are also not required to submit any of their findings, any of the questions that were asked, anything at all, to Industry Canada or anyone. Those are records that they keep, and the only thing they have to submit is the final response of the public. So you pose a question to them, they respond to your question, your response to TELUS is the only thing that they have to submit to Industry Canada for review. So, if we flip to the next document, World Health Organization, I sort of went about this like, when I first heard about it, where did I look? I looked at Health Canada, I looked at the World Health Organization, and then I started digging. So if we look at this document, this is World Health Organization's position on cell towers, and they are basically saying they are safe. Something to note at the bottom of the first page, health concerns, that complete paragraph is talking about thermal radiation, which is like your microwave. They emit RFs into something, the temperature rises. That's the type of thing that's always been known to cause cancer and all those ill effects that everyone knows about. Non-thermal is what the issue is about. There's an awful lot of evidence suggesting that non-thermal, which I will show shortly, the non-thermal is potentially deadly, yet it's not addressed anywhere in anywhere in the world, actually, in any of the regulations. So in this publication, we noticed that. And then on page 2, they even say right here, near the bottom, other effects. Few studies have investigated general health effects in individuals exposed to RF fields from base stations. So they say themselves there are not very many studies done. And the problem is that cell technology just hasn't been around long enough, and the issue is length of time. So sure, it's emitting a very small amount, but it's for decades, which hasn't happened yet. So it's kind of difficult to come up with real evidence. But all the early evidence doesn't look good at all. The very next document is another World Health Organization document. And this one basically shows their first official stand as an assumption, because the first line is, there is little relevant epidemiology at present that examines health effects in children. And what this is a call all for study and scientific investigation. And note that they are all listed high priority. And the one at the bottom is case control studies of childhood cancer with improved exposure assessment for base stations. So the World Health Organization says it's safe, but by their own documentation, it's an assumption. The next document we have is the big thick one. This is a study by a PhD at the Trent University. Her name is Magda Havas, and she is becoming very vocal about RF signals because of what she's finding. She's finding, and I really urge all of you to go home and actually read this. It's overwhelming landslide of evidence. But if you go to page 5, sorry, I was hoping to get all the little tabs in this, but what she's done is she's collected dozens of studies from around the world and put them together in this one document. And so she has here this little chart, chart 1, shows the health effects that have been observed at different power densities, which is this little UWCM squared is the microwatts per square centimeter. And if you look at the numbers, ranging from 0.1 to 10, childhood leukemia. 1, we've got altered white blood cells in school children. Headaches, weakness, impaired memory, that's at 10. Safety Code 6 says that TELUS can emit 1,000 microwatts. Will they? Hard to say, but they can.
Okay, you're up to 11 minutes now on a 10-minute presentation, so
all right,
if you could just move along, please.
Okay, yep, the next one is another document, and this one is just a quick touch. This was published by the National Research Council of Canada, and near the back, it's highlighted in them, but at any rate, the statement, one of the conclusion statements is that no cellular base station should ever be placed within 500 meters of the population. That was published by the National Research Council of Canada.
Yeah, that's page 389.
Yeah, that's right, 389. Thank you. Thank you. The next one is this one with the blue bits on it. This is an email that was a correspondence with someone in Vancouver who's fighting a tower there, and this is with the manager of spectrum operations of Industry Canada. And just so that the RDN knows where they're at, these are direct questions. They are under no obligation at any time to allow TELUS to put the tower up. Industry Canada will not require it. They will not expropriate the land. They can pull the plug anytime they want for any reason. And then the next one is precedents. Basically, the rest of it in there is precedents from around the world. Vancouver School Board, Coquitlam School Board, International Association of Firefighters, no cell phone towers. BC Confederation of Parent Advisory Councils is pushing for no towers. As you know, Parksville just denied a tower on top of their fire hall. Oregon School Board, Long Island, New York. It goes on and on and on, and I can provide probably 100 more of other cities, school boards that have basically put a distance to it. Just taking a precautionary principle in that they don't know. There's not enough science to prove that it's safe. There's not enough science to prove that it's dangerous. It's an unknown.
Okay, we're going to have to interrupt you there because we're over 13 minutes, but I have a question I'd like to ask Councillor Sherry. Did you have something? Councillor Sherry, you had a question?
Thank you for the information. We'll try to get a chance to read it. The question is, you mentioned base stations.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The question that I have is, in any of this document, do you have reference to the maximum wattage out from these stations as it relates to, because a base station is a little different than a regular tower?
Well, and they're referring to base stations as a cell phone antenna. is as a base station.
With no mention of power.
No, it comes down to, even in Safety Code 6, they, I've been trying to learn it all myself in the past couple of weeks very quickly, and even in Safety Code 6, they don't mention wattage. It's voltage per, I'm not sure. It's radiant voltage. It's not even like wattage in. I do know that there are some towers that they were talking about because I've read an awful lot and really got buried in it. They're talking potentially 100 watts coming off. It would be the power for some of these, being, say, 5 to 10 watts per antenna. But then, of course, they have, 8 antennas facing all directions. Then Rogers wants to get on it. Then, T-Mobile wants to get on it. And in that RDN document, they are allowed to rent out quite a bit of space on the tower. So this is only the tip of the iceberg.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see no further questions. Thank you very much, sir. All right.
Move receipt of the delegation.
Second, all those in favor? We just did that. Thank you very much. And you voted too, I trust. So thank you. Into the, I think that's all the delegations now. So we're going into the mayor's report, and it's LED animated signs. And what I would like to do is, I think it's important that council try as best we're able to come up with a consensus on this. I think the sign issue has gone back and forth on a number of different occasions, and I really would like to see if we can get consensus from council. And basically what I want to do is just run through the items that are on here now, the LED animated signs. And there are 10 items. I think we have them, but for the benefit of those that obviously don't have it in front of me, the first one is LED animated signs are only visible inside a building, and those ones would not require a permit. The second, the maximum size of the LED animated sign is 9.29 square meters, or 100 square feet, and no more than one LED animated sign shall be permitted per lot. Third bullet is window LED animated signs are permitted up to 50% of the window area in which it is situated. Item 4, no LED animated signs shall be permitted unless it can be demonstrated not to be a nuisance that distracts or impairs safe vehicle operation. Item 5, no LED animated signs shall be permitted on properties fronting or adjacent to the Nanaimo Parkway. 6, sign copy is limited to static images only, which must be displayed for a minimum display period of 6 seconds per image. The use of animation effects to transition from one static image to the next will be permitted. Maximum transition time is 3 seconds. Continuous video, flashing, or scrolling type signs are not permitted. 7, all LED animated signs must include automatic dimming so that the light intensity levels are automatically adjusted based on current weather conditions and the time of day. 8, the brightness level of all LED animated signs shall not be more than 0.03 foot candles over ambient levels as measured using a foot candle meter at a distance of 30 meters or 98.42 feet from the face of the sign. 9, where a residential dwelling is located within 30 meters or 98.42 feet of the sign face, and for all LED and animated signs on lands zoned institutional, the sign must be turned off between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Where the business is open past 10 p.m., the LED sign may remain functional until the close of business hours. An application should provide evidence to demonstrate no conflict will occur with any adjacent residential development. And the final number 10 is third-party advertising, except for not-for-profit organizations or events, is not permitted except on LED animated signs located on city-owned property. Third-party advertising for malls is permitted for tenants advertising on the subject property only. Now, maybe we'll just start off. I see a question, Councillor Holdham.
Your Worship, I'd like to move that Council adopt the LED animated signs guidelines and operational requirements.
Moved and seconded. We have some questions here. Councillor Kipp.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can support this. The last time this came before us, I was kind of confused of where we were. I was concerned that there wasn't any guidelines whatsoever. My only one that I really have a concern with still is the safety issue, number 4. I'd love to hear LED Safety Code 6 or NFPA standard or Minister of Transport Highways safety code number and sign relationships, because I don't like the idea of subjective safety. I really like to have it more objective, but I think we can deal with that over time. Third-party advertising, I think it's okay, but as it sits now, I think after 40 months, I can make a decision.
Well, I'm truly appreciative. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. Just item number 2, as it makes reference to one LED sign, I'm questioning the staff. I assume that's double-sided. Thank you.
Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. I suppose it goes without saying that I am disappointed that the safety rules as suggested by the Provincial Ministry of Transportation are not included in this, but the name of the game is compromise, and so obviously I am going to support this. I do have concerns about safety, and I can agree with Councillor Kipp that if we had the specifics, then they should be in there, but we can still work on that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Unger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it's important to note that we make a judgment on each individual application. This isn't a blanket covering all signs. As other councillors have said, there are some items in here which I am not fully satisfied with, but this is a set of guidelines, and if they don't work, we have the ability as a council or any future council to make changes to any guidelines. So I will be supporting this list.
Thank you. Councillor Johnstone.
Your Worship, I'll certainly be supporting it. These guidelines are largely those that were brought forward by the Chamber of Commerce and our sign committee, and I think they're a good set of guidelines, and I'm pleased that we're finally coming to an affirmative vote on this, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Councillor Holdham.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we really have exhausted this topic, and I'd call that you call the question.
Okay, we do have one final. Councillor Sherry, did you want to, before we vote?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
You're on.
The question that I have is that this item appears under item C, 13C, as it relates to sign amendment bylaw 2011, number 7120. Are we bringing that forward at this time to vote on that, or are we voting on receiving the mayor's information that he would like council to consider?
I think this is two-part. Mr. Kenny, do you want to elaborate?
Yes, Your Worship, I'd agree that it's 2 parts, that you should consider the guidelines, I think now. Council could well bring the bylaw forward, but it is a separate issue relating to withdrawing the existing regulations, so I think that should occur as well, but it doesn't have to happen at this second.
Just from the tone that let's get on with it and go from it here. I need clarification because we do have a bylaw to deal with it. This has been a very contentious item over a number of months, and I do have some concerns with guidelines. I've taken the time to sit down with staff and go over some of the concerns that I have, and some of them are safety issues and wordsmithing of bullets within this, and I still have major concerns with them. They're guidelines, and the unfortunate problem is, from my perspective, I can see that we're going to be dealing with LED signs with the variances and that on an ongoing, continuous basis.
Okay, thank you. I think at this stage what I would like and ask, and I think Councillor Hold'em did, that council approve the LED/animated sign guidelines as presented to use as guidelines for site-specific LED sign development variance permit DVP applications. So on the motion, all those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Besrick and Councillor Sherry, sorry, you are opposed? You're not opposed? No, I'm okay. You're opposed? Okay. Sorry? No, I'm opposed. In favor. Okay, it was a slow withdrawal, was it? Okay. The only one opposed then, can you confirm, is Councillor Sherry? Okay. A balanced council in favor. The motion passes. Proclamations that 2011 February 20th is Kinsman and Kinnet's Day, and 2011 February 14th to 2011 February 20th Kinsman and Kinnet's Week, a celebration of Kinsman and Kinnet's in Canada in the city of Nanaimo. Further, that 2011 February 21 is Family Day in the city of Nanaimo. Item C, that 2011 February 23 is Pink Shirt Day in the city of Nanaimo, and that's to do with bullying, which I think is an important subject which we all should get involved with. And D, the final one, is that 2011 February 21 to 2011 February 27 is Heritage Week in the city of Nanaimo. Commission reports, Parks and Recreation Culture Commission, minutes of the Parks and Recreation Culture Commission meeting held 2010, November 24th, and the Commission's recommendation that Council receive the minutes of the Parks and Recreation Culture Commission meeting held November 24th, 2010. What's your pleasure on that? Did you want to move that?
Yes, I'd like to move the recommendation.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Are you opposed or no? That's okay. Motion passes. Nanaimo Athletic Commission minutes of the Nanaimo Athletic Commission meeting held 2010 November 24th. Commission recommendation that Council receive the minutes of the Nanaimo Athletic Commission meeting held 2010 November 24th.
I move the receipt of the minutes.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Going down to staff reports, community safety and development. Oh, sorry, I skipped over one. I beg your pardon. Item 10, committee reports. Grants Advisory Committee, 2011 Grants Advisory Committee recommendations, and the committee recommendations that Council award and other grant to applicant OG01, Nanaimo Volunteers Information Center Society, in the amount of $1,408.06, 1408.06.
I move the committee's recommendation.
Thank you. Second. Moved and seconded. See no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now into staff reports. And disposition of a 60-year lease to Provincial Rental Housing Corporation for lands located at 437 Wesley Street. Staff recommendation that Council, 1, approve the disposition of a 60-year lease for the lands located at 437 Wesley Street to the Provincial Rental Housing Corporation, PRHC, for a 36-unit supportive housing project, and 2, authorize staff to publish the statutory public notices of disposition as required under Section 24 and Section 26 of the Community Charter.
Move the staff recommendation.
Second.
Moved and seconded. See no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Expropriation. We're going into item now B at the top of page 3. Expropriation of rights of way to accommodate relocation of hydro poles at 1601 and 1602 Bowen Road. Staff recommendation that Council, 1, adopt the following resolution authorizing the expropriation of a right of way across part of 1601 Bowen Road. And the recommendation is, whereas the City of Nanaimo is carrying out a project to expand and improve the public highway known as Bowen Road, and whereas the City of Nanaimo requires for the project a right-of-way for hydroelectric purposes across part of the lands located at 1601 Bowen Road, which right-of-way the City of Nanaimo has been unable to obtain through negotiation, and whereas the City of Nanaimo has authority under Section 31 of the Community Charter to expropriate real property, now therefore the Council of the City of Nanaimo is in an open meeting assembled resolves as follow. 1, the expropriation of a limited estate in the land in the nature of a perpetual right-of-way located at 1601 Bowen Road as described and shown in the report as attached 1A and is hereby authorized, and 2, the General Manager of Community Safety and Development and the Manager of Legislative Services are hereby authorized to do all acts and things necessary to carry out the expropriation. And 2, adopt the following resolution authorizing the expropriation of a right-of-way across part of 1602 Bowen Road. Whereas the City of Nanaimo is carrying out a project to expand and improve the public highway known as Bowen Road, and whereas the City of Nanaimo requires a project for a right-of-way for hydroelectric purposes across part of the lands located at 1602 Bowen Road, which right-of-way the City of Nanaimo has been unable to obtain through negotiation, and whereas the City of Nanaimo has authority under Section 31 of the Community Charter to expropriate real property. Now, therefore, the Council of the City of Nanaimo, in an open meeting assembled, resolves as follows. 1, expropriation of a limited estate in the land in the nature of a perpetual right-of-way located at 1602 Bowen Road, as described and shown in the report as attachment 2A, and is hereby authorized. And 2, the General Manager of Community Safety and Development and the Manager of Legislative Services both are hereby authorized to do all acts and things necessary to carry out the expropriation. No, I'm not going to. That was
staff recommendation.
Thank you. Second. You've been saying any discussion? We have Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. 2 questions to staff. Just the owner of 1601 and 1602 Bowen Road, I just don't see that in the report.
Rock investment thing.
Just trying to protect.
For both properties?
Just trying to protect.
No, 1602 is 711.
Okay.
And second question, is it reasonable to assume that this negotiation has already taken place?
You're off.
Your Worship, negotiations are ongoing. We're hopeful that we'll reach satisfactory negotiations. However, we believe the expropriation needs to be initiated so that we can meet our time deadlines.
Thank you. The reason I asked the question is simply when typically if we're dealing with real estate topics, it's something that we've done in camera so as not to prejudice an opportunity or an amount or a negotiated settlement. That's the purpose of the question, if we have already commenced and or completed negotiations on this expropriation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor, no, one more. Councillor Unger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was concerned with the fact that we're building overland material here, and we looked at the idea of doing it all underground, and staff prepared a report that shows it is extremely expensive to go underground in those areas, so that is why this is being done.
Okay, thank you. Question on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And it's item C, like Charlie, and that is expropriation of part of 2161 Boxwood Road for intersection upgrade. Staff recommendation the Council adopt the following resolution authorizing expropriation of part of 2161 Boxwood Road, whereas the City of Nanaimo is carrying out a project to expand, improve the public highway known as Boxwood Road, and whereas the City of Nanaimo requires for the project the fee simple interest in part of the lands located at 2161 Boxwood Road, which part the City of Nanaimo has been unable to obtain through negotiation, and whereas the City of Nanaimo has authority under Section 31 of the Community Charter to expropriate real property, now therefore Council of the City of Nanaimo in open meeting assembled resolves as follows. 1, the expropriation of that part of the lands located at 2161 Boxwood Road shown in the report as attachment 1A is hereby authorized, and 2, the General Manager of Community Safety and Development and the Manager of Legislative Services are hereby authorized to do all acts and things necessary to carry out the expropriation. Would someone like to move the recommendation?
I'll move it.
Okay, moved and seconded. Okay, all those in favor? Sorry, you're on for this one, are you? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to support this one here. This is a matter of taking a small portion of a piece of property on the very corner of Boxwood Road and Northfield Road. The individual that owns the property have been trying to get access to the deal, and I would suggest that they have attempted previously to come off Boxwood Road onto their property. Because it's so close to the corner, whatever they tried to do, they've been denied to do this. So what's the information that I've received is that we want to chase them further down onto Northfield Road, down where they're is grade separation not only between the property, but it's on an incline as well. And it's kind of sad that you're expropriation a small portion and putting a further greater expense on the individuals if they were able to achieve a access, which would have to be right in and right out of the property. And I just have grave concerns, and especially what's being forecast for the completion and the remainder of that intersection at Boxwood and Northfield Road. So I will not be supporting this recommendation.
Okay. So question on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? We have Councillor Sherry opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes. Reported public hearing held February 3rd for bylaw 6500.014 and 4000.495. Staff's recommendation that council receive the report and the minutes of the public hearing held February 3 for bylaw 6500.014 and 4000.495.
The recommendation.
Second. I see no question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. DP 650 at 190 Nickel Street. The staff's recommendation that council issue a development permit number DP 650 at 190 Nickel Street with the following variances: front yard setback variance of 2.15 meters or 7 feet, flanking street yard setback variance 5.5 meters or 18.04 feet, rear yard setback variance of 1.25 meters or 4.1 feet, and a parking variance of 5 spaces. The applicant, Mr. Keith Brown, is in attendance if there's any questions that we have. So, Mr. Brown, I guess you're on deck if you'd like to come down. I see Councillor Patchy has a question. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, Councillors. For Council's reference, Kenco Enterprises purchased the property about 6 years ago. 7-Eleven initially took a look at the property for redevelopment, and then they backed away, and then they came back to the table again. And in the past few months, we put an agreement together, and we went ahead with the design of the works and building, site servicing, etc. From a planning perspective, the design represents a high-quality building sited on a highly visible in an important gateway corner to the city core. The project represents a cost of $1 million with an additional $100,000 for lane upgrades and curbing and crossovers upgrades and some hydro poles. The building setbacks to property lines, we took advantage of trying to get some reduction on that. First of all, they're fairly arbitrary, but we felt that we needed to enhance the parking and the alignment because the property slopes at the back. We had to create certain gradients going across it, which ate up some of the land that would normally be for parking. And secondly, we could reduce the planters at the front, which would create more of a hard landscape rather than a soft landscape, which interprets into less area for loitering, etc. Additional lighting has been provided along the laneway and the garbage compound areas for safety and security reasons. I just spent some time with the engineers this morning to make sure that got incorporated, because that was brought to my attention about a week ago. One more light would help. A short study of convenience stores throughout portions of the city reveals that the majority of convenience stores have complementary uses such as gas bars, fast food, drive-thrus, etc., with their respective hours of operation being based on marketing. Many of them 24/7. Some of them weekends hours adjusted slightly, etc. Now I'm talking about most of them 24 hours with accessory uses or complementary uses. These standalone convenience stores without complementary uses require extended hours. In other words, they've got one business. They don't have gas as a base to drain money so that as a convenience store standalone, they do require lengthy more hours for business operation. This became evident based on a review of 16 sites. 7-Eleven has a couple of the sites, Quarterway and Pride, Bone Road and Pride. That's a standalone store. Townsite Road and Terminal Avenue North is a standalone store. There's several of them throughout, not just 7-Elevens, but other stores. But the majority are all got accessory uses or complementary uses. It is important that the development permit application for this 7-Eleven convenience store be approved by City Council as presented by staff. Both the landowner and 7-Eleven are committed by working with the South End Community Association on an ongoing basis, and there's a covering letter of that on your agenda. There's several points I want to just make, though. There are some differences in this project over others. We have a suite upstairs, and there is space for additional suites based on the successful parking. So we're not applying for rezoning to touch up that suite situation until we know we've got the additional parking. But right now we have legitimate parking for one suite upstairs, which is eyes on the sidewalk in terms of eyes on the street. That's a very big factor on any of these types of uses. The manager for 7-Eleven, if I can digress just to tell you a story, I met with a neighbor 2 weeks ago to talk about raising the curb or putting a curb wall, just a short pony wall, along their property line. And if they were interested, we'd put it on their property. Well, there was an agreement reached. And then he brought it to my attention. He said, you know, my wife works for 7-Eleven. So I asked, where would that be? And she said she's actually been trained in Harewood to become the manager of the store. This is the immediate property owner at the rear. 7-Eleven has committed with property owners to working with SECA, that's your South End Citizens Association, on issues on an ongoing basis. To date, this project is predicated in terms of beginning the rejuvenation of Nickel Street. Nobody else is down there. Those blocks have been sitting vacant. And here's a gateway corner that we're starting with those drawings up on the table there. 7-Eleven should be allowed to proceed without preconditions at this time. All the work has been done. The good faith is there. The good faith letters on site. Council's bylaws are not contrary to 24-hour. So what we are doing is we're coming forward with a project. We're seeking development permit approval to advance. And then, if there is issues, the good faith letter would cut in that we'd work with the South End Citizens Association and work the problem out. That's the issue. We're moving ahead, and putting a precondition on is unfair. We haven't done it with the others when they're starting new construction. I think we should hold to that. I think I'll leave it at that. I'm here for questions now.
Okay, we do have some questions, but my question to you, Mr. Brown, is what has been done by you or your representatives to make contact with all the adjacent neighbors, and particularly those in the South End, to try to satisfy any of the concerns or issues that they raised? Have you had discussions and meetings with them?
Through presentation to committee, the South End Association, their committee, the designer for the project, in my absence, was able to give presentation, and they asked for, I think their points were on your agenda there, 5 or 6 of the points. I think the one issue outstanding is the governance of ours, and from my point of view, I think we respect that, but prove it first. We're saying, let us get into place, and then we'll turn around. And if there is an issue, don't forget now, we have people that are managing, living next door. We have residents upstairs. We have actually got a very good chance to make this a success without having to lean on having to claw back, so to speak, hours of operation.
Okay, sir. We have got some questions. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. Evening, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, sir.
It goes without saying that it's a good project. I know that the South End Community Association is in favor of it. They like what they see. They, from a heritage point of view, to what's being presented there. However, I have had, as recently as this morning a phone call from Douglas Hardy, who is the president of that association, expressing some really grave concerns about two things: the hours of operation. They would like to see it close at 2 a.m., and they also wanted to make very sure that there was no telephone service available to anyone on the outside of the building, because it's been a pretty notorious place for loitering and all sorts of untoward things. Now, this morning, I asked our own staff when I apprised them of the phone call I had this morning, and they have told us that if we want to be serious about that, then that has to be settled one way or the other before the development permit is issued. And so my next question, then, if I may, Your Worship, would be to staff by telling us how much time would be involved if we send this back to you in order that a proper discourse is being held between the South End Community Organization, yourselves, and the 7-Eleven. And I just want to give you a little bit of background on that. I come from the Departure Bay area, where we had, the reason that we started a neighborhood association in Departure Bay was because of 7-Eleven and the 24/7 aspect. So I have a bit of a feeling for that. And having been told that it is better all around for everybody to have answers to these questions or a solution to what is perceived as a problem, would lead me to believe that if the time is not exorbitant, that we should go that way and at least have a conversation, because we're dealing with a brand new neighborhood plan with a very eager but also anxious neighborhood association, and I think we just now have to go the extra step to make sure that everybody's happy, including yourself. Thank you, Worship.
You ready? Okay, thank you. Councillor Oldham.
Nope. Is there going to be an answer to that, or no? Okay.
Look, are you going to wait for a response, or?
How long will it take? Is what he asked.
Your Worship, staff is at the applicant's disposal. If that's what council directs, we'd be willing to meet as soon as possible with both the applicant and the neighborhood association.
I guess the follow-up, Mr. Swaby, that if you did meet with them, I mean, what do you think would be a realistic time frame if you met even as early as tomorrow?
Your Worship, I don't see a problem getting back at the next council meeting. Whether there's resolution or not, I'm not sure. To actually implement a bylaw to restrict hours takes a lot of effort. I hear the applicant wanting to speak to the neighborhood association about other alternatives that they think might achieve the same goals that the neighborhood association is seeking, and I think that's viable within the time frame of the next council meeting, if that's what you'd like.
Okay. Councillor Badgie?
In that case, Your Worship, I would like to move that we send this back to staff in order to have that all-important conversation with 7-Eleven and with Mr. Brown, and that we hopefully get that back 2 weeks from now so that we can deal with it. If I have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay. Then we have you for speaking. Do you still want to speak on this issue, or should you, are we going to have a question?
If I may, Your Worship, I've seconded the motion to get it on the floor, but to help determine how I vote on it, I would like to ask Mr. Brown a couple of questions, if I may.
Mr. Chairman, we have a motion on the floor now. Unfortunately.
Oh, that's right.
No, you didn't second it.
Yeah,
it has no expressive privileges. So.
Okay, I'll cut myself off. There we go. Thank you.
Councillor Bestwick, do you want to deal with the motion that's on the floor now to refer back to staff?
I would be happy to. That wasn't the primary reason why I wanted to speak, but if that's the case, I certainly will.
That's where we are, yeah.
In our own business license bylaw, this area does not have a restriction in it for hours of operation along this corridor. I certainly am sensitive to the South End Community Association's wishes, and as I understand it, if I'm correct, that they have met about hours of operation, that they have met about these 5 items of mutual concern, and that there is an addendum A to deal beyond the conversations and dialogue that's already taken place to get it to this stage. I haven't seen from Mr. Hardy in written form that their wish is for it to close at 2 a.m. But then I guess my question would be, what time is permissible for it to open? Or do they have an issue when it opens? So perhaps it closes at 2 and opens at 2:30. So I haven't seen that information, and so I wouldn't know what time on the other end it would open, for example. I'm comfortable with what we have before us from the applicant to vote on this matter, so I won't be supporting the motion to refer it back to staff.
Okay. Councillor Johnston and Councillor Sherry, are you both talking to the motion on the floor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship, to staff, there are other operations on this major corridor that have 24-hour hours of operation now. The McDonald's and a few others.
Yes, there are other operations that have 24-hour service. They are a different type of facility. McDonald's, for instance, is a restaurant and not a retail outlet, so they are different in that respect.
And again, Your Worship, to follow up if I may, would imposing hours of restriction on this place of business impact other businesses?
Yes, it would. The regulations in place do not allow a restriction of hours of business just for one business. It has to be in an entire geographic area for a certain type of business, such as retail, so it would affect other businesses.
Thank you.
Councillor Sherry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I have no problem with hours of operation. The biggest problem that I have with it is a matter of the telephone system on the outside and what that is, like a big magnet. And basically, the other portion, I have no problem with it. And as indicated this morning at the rehearsal, it was indicated that we don't have the opportunity to issue that subject to the removal. It's either we approve it or we don't approve it. And until such time as I get an answer back from the applicant there that there will be no communication devices via telephone attached to the building or to the property on the outside of the building, I won't support this variance.
Okay, Councillor Oldham.
Thank you, Your Worship. Speaking to the motion to refer now, I think that there's enough doubt. I wanted to ask some questions about it, but I think there's enough concern about the fact that the 7-Eleven operations in a few locations in the city are restricted in terms of their hours. I haven't heard any repercussions from that as to whether they go out of business. They don't appear to. They still are there. And whether they have the issues that some of the other convenience stores as well as the other 7-Eleven seem to have. On the other hand, we have had one or two of the 24-hour operations 7-Eleven stores become the focus for all kinds of complaints from neighbors and people because they seem to attract people to hang around in the middle of the night and cause problems. So I guess I would like to further that discussion, and that's why I'm voting in favor of referral. I think we should treat all the neighborhoods in the city fairly, and if there's an opportunity and a neighborhood does wish to restrict the hours of operation in order to head off some issues, I think they should at least have the chance to talk to the applicant about that. So that's why I'd be voting in favor of referral.
Councillor Kipp.
Yeah, Your Worship, it's interesting for me, the outside phone issue. Not many people use them anymore. Most people have cell phones anyhow, although they are there for safety and issues. The bottom corner of the drawing that's on the screen says March 23rd, 2010. Has this been in the process for almost a year now?
You have a motion on the floor. I can't speak.
Oh, no, so to staff?
Staff?
Question to staff?
Yes, Your Worship, through to Councillor Kipp, this has been an application where the applicant has done a lot of work with the Ministry of Transportation and Highways to resolve the access issues, a lot of which is out of the control of the city, and has brought forward an application after considerable amount of debating with them that resulted in the parking variance to achieve the access requirements.
Oh, but it's been in the process for about a year, so another couple of weeks probably is not bad. So I can support to refer it because of the issues that the neighborhood has.
Councillor Beswick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a follow-up to Mr. Seward's comment that in this area, or the corridor there, if we chose to restrict the hours of operation, then would all other 24-hour operations be asked or expected or anticipated to face a change to their hours of operation?
To Councillor Beswick, all other retail outlets may be restricted, but we don't know until we have a chance to review all the other operations on Nicholl Street and the surrounding areas.
But we do know that there are retail outlets, and we do know that there are other outlets that operate 24/7. Therefore, would it be reasonable for one to assume that those businesses may face the same consideration?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we've covered the issue, and I think there's enough questions and concern on the part of council that perhaps it should be referred to. That's how I will vote, because I think we need to get these questions answered. So on the motion to refer, all those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Beswick opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion to refer carries.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. Now, just before we close, I just want to say there's a young lady just on her way out now. Yeah, we're just going to talk to you before you leave. This little gal's being homeschooled, and her mom came to see me in the mayor's office, and so I just wanted to say thank you for coming, and I hope you learned a great deal from the listen, what is happening here? However, so if you'd like to come forward, just for a moment, we have something for you. Because I'm just a little bit, no, that's great. I think because we gave a couple of, so
this looks better.
That one looks better. It doesn't have, well, it looks like the dog chewed it, as a matter of fact. But so here's a little memento from your visit here. And it's past your bedtime. You're supposed to be in bed at 8 o'clock. Remember, that's what you told me. But thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. And thanks to your mom, too, for bringing you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now. I couldn't, let her sneak away without acknowledging her presence, because they visited us and had some very good questions, and I appreciate it. Thank you. DP 701-111 Wallace Street. Staff recommendation the council issue development permit number DP 701 at 111 Wallace Street with a flanking side yard setback variance 2.2 meters or 7.22 feet.
Second.
Who's in second? All those in favor? Carried. DVP 162 at 3725 to 3729 Bel Air Drive. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to DVP 162. The staff recommendation the council issue development variance permit number DVP 162 at 3725 3729 Bel Air Drive. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters respecting DVP 162 in attendance? Welcome, sir. We just need name and address for the files, please.
My name is Brock Williamson. I'm representing the applicant, Mario Linda Forte. I'm at 1447 Roseanne Drive in Nanaimo.
Thank you.
I'm here with myself, obviously, and Victoria Drakeford, the landscape architect, and a member of the family, Brian Godfrey. We visited the neighbors with our information package and followed up a few days later over the phone. We were able to obtain the consent of 7 of the neighbors around the site out of 9. We had no response from a couple of them, as one was away on holidays, and we didn't get a response from the other one. And that's pretty much it. We're in concurrence with the staff report, and I'm here if you should have any questions.
Okay, are there any questions to the delegations? I don't see any at this point. Moved second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move along now into DVP 164 at 434 Hillcrest Avenue. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to DVP 164. Staff recommendation that council issue development variance permit number DVP 164 at 434 Hillcrest Avenue. Is there anyone in attendance that wishes to speak to matters regarding DVP 164?
Move the staff recommendation.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. DVP 166 at 2323 Arbit Road. Staff recommendation that council direct staff to proceed with the required statutory notification for development variance permit DVP 166 at 2323 Arbit Road. Someone like to move the recommendation? Okay, and second? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. RA 259, part of 6553 Portsmouth Road. Plan Nanaimo Advisory Committee, PNAC, at its meeting of November 16, 2010, recommended that council approve the application, and staff's recommendation that council, 1, receive the report pertaining to the zoning amendment bylaw 2011 number 4000.496, which is presented under the bylaw section of this agenda.
Recommendations 1 and 2.
And 2.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, you're a little speedier than I am here. And 2, direct staff to secure the following prior to adoption of the bylaw should council support the bylaw at a third reading: 1, road reserve covenant, and 2, community contribution.
Staff recommendations 1 and 2.
Okay, and is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councillor Patchy.
Thank you, Worship. A question to staff, if I may. Building number C is the higher one of the proposed development, and all we know that it is being proposed to be built at some later date. Do we, or do you have any idea when that might be?
Through your worship, no, we don't.
Thank you.
Okay, a long ways to go for not much, but so I see no further. Oh, sorry, Councillor Bessary.
Thank you, Bishop. Question to staff. I'm always fascinated by the community contribution aspect, and sometimes we know what the community contribution is, and sometimes we don't. And this appears to be quite a significant contribution, and I'm just wondering if there's an explanation on how we arrived at this contribution.
The proposed development is a mixed-use development in the Woodgrove urban node, and there's a considerable increase in density through this rezoning. Admittedly, the third building may not be built for a number of years, but there's a substantial lift on the land value, and the community contribution reflects that lift on land value.
May I? Yeah. So, it hasn't been, to my understanding or knowledge, that on the increased land value is what the community's contribution has been based on. It's typically, from what I gather, based on the pre-value or appraised value or assessed value. Is that not, am I misunderstanding that?
I think, Councillor, you're referring to the 5% cash in lieu for park dedication, which is based on its pre-development values. For the community contribution, it's based on the increase in value, and typically where you see a residential development, it's the increase in density and the number of doors times a figure is very often, but it's the increase is what the community contribution is based on.
Could you cite a recent example for me?
Off the top, no, I can't quickly. I would.
probably the previous application, which was the subject of the public hearing, I believe was related to the number of units that was going to be approved if council supports it, and that was based on the increased density.
Thank you.
Okay. Question on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We're dealing with RA 262 at 2469 Labio Road and 2368 Barclay Road. Plan Nanaimo Advisory Committee PNAC recommendation at its meeting of November 16, 2010 recommended the council approve the application. Staff recommendation of council: 1, receive the report pertaining to zoning amendment bylaw 2011 number 4000.499, which is presented under the bylaws section of the agenda, and 2, direct staff to secure the following prior to the adoption of the bylaw should council support the bylaw at third reading: 1, lot consolidation; 2, covenant for no gating restriction; and 3, community contribution.
Move the recommendations.
Move the recommendations 1 and 2. Seconder. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. RA 266, part of 1512 Frew Road and part of 1072 Cedar Road. Staff recommendation that Council 1 receive the report pertaining to zoning amendment bylaw 2011 number 4000.498, which is presented under the bylaws section of the agenda, and 2, direct staff to secure the following prior to the adoption of the bylaw should Council support the bylaw at a third reading: road dedication and covenant amendment.
Move the recommendation.
Move the recommendation. Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Unsightly premises, property maintenance bylaw 1990 number 3704. It's requested the council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unsightly premises for the properties listed below, and staff recommendation the council pursuant to the property maintenance bylaw number 19903704 direct the owners of the following properties to remove the material as listed below from the premises within 14 days of the work will be done by the city or its agents at the owner's cost. We have only 2 properties. Number 1 is 174 Commercial Street, alias 180 Commercial Street, graffiti. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters regarding 174 or alias 180 Commercial Street, whatever that is? Okay, and the next item is 150 Wallace Street, graffiti. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters at 150 Wallace Street? Again, a graffiti issue. Seeing none, if somebody would like to move
the staff recommendation
for 1 and 2, is there a secondary? All those in favor? Sorry? Oh, you're on there. Councillor Bessick, I'm sorry.
Worship, what is 174 or alias 180? What business or what property or what is that, please?
Go ahead, yeah.
The company name, the property owner is Amarada Holdings Limited.
Mr. Tucker, could you sort of explain a little bit of confusion over there? It's 174 Commercial Street, alias 180. I haven't seen that before. Is there...
Where a parent property has 2 addresses on it. One is the assigned address and one is the alias address.
Thank you.
I need one of those.
Councillor Kipp.
No, I'm going to let this one go.
No, he's weakening. Okay. On the motion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving down into structural removal order, illegal suite in an accessory building, 685 Sarum Rise Way. It's requested the councillor here and wishing to speak with respect to illegal suite at 685 Sarum Rise Way, and staff recommendation the council pursuant to section 72 and 73 of the community charter order the owner of 685 Sarum Rise Way to remove the secondary suite located within the detached garage within 30 days. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters regarding 685 Sarum Rise Way?
Move the prepared resolution.
Second. Moved and second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Unresolved building deficiencies. Notice on title, section 5.7. It's requested that council herein wishing to speak with respect to unresolved building deficiencies for the properties listed below. Staff recommendation that council, and by resolution, instruct the manager of legislative services to file a bylaw controversy notice respecting the properties listed below at the Land Title and Survey Authority of British Columbia under section 5.7 of the community charter. There are several of them. Number 1, 131 Victoria Road, illegal illegal construction, finished basement to include a secondary suite. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters concerning 131 Victoria Road? The next item is 164 Mount Benson Street, illegal construction, finished basement to include a secondary suite. Is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak to matters related to 164 Mount Benson Street? Third one is 6289 Furley Place, illegal construction addition. Is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak to matters related to 6289 Furley Place? I don't think this gentleman will be speaking to that issue. Item 4, 6410 Portsmouth Road, illegal construction, finished upper floor of attached garage. Anyone in attendance that would like to speak to matters related to 6410 Portsmouth Road? 53 Ranchview Drive, illegal construction, finished basement to include a secondary suite. Anyone in attendance that would like to speak to matters related to 53 Ranchview Drive? The sixth item is 685 Sarum Rise Way, again, illegal construction, convert detached garage to accessory dwelling. And I think we were asked earlier if anyone was in attendance for 685, but I will again, 685 Sarum Rise Way. Number 7 is Unit 14367 Boban Drive, illegal construction and a mezzanine. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters related to 4396 Boban Drive?
Move to declare resolution as relates to all those properties.
All 7, all seconders? And I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We are... subdivision approval, Park and Cash in Lieu, 6,000 Time Place, subdivision 00862. Staff recommendation that council approve the payment of cash in lieu of Park for the phased building strata subdivision of lands described as Lot 1, District Lot 25G, Plan 11632, except Plan VIP 76693, LD 58 for 6,000 Time Place, subdivision 00862.
Move the recommendation.
Is there a seconder? I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And Q, subdivision approval, Park and Cash in Lieu, 5401 Big Bear Ridge, subdivision 00875. Staff recommendation that council approve the payment of cash in lieu of Park for fee simple subdivision of lands described as Lot 2, Section 16, Wellington District Plan, VIP 63891 for 5401 Big Bear Ridge, subdivision 00875.
The staff recommendation.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Corporate Services, 2001 AVICC resolutions. For those that may not be familiar with the term, it's the Association of Vancouver Island Communities. And, sorry? Coastal communities, sorry, you're right here. The staff recommendation that Council 1 adopt the following resolution regarding funding for public libraries for submission to the Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities for consideration at the 2011 Annual General Meeting. Whereas the public libraries enhance the lives of all British Columbians and are an essential resource to all the communities they serve, especially in times of economic hardship, and whereas the reduced provincial funding impacts the ability of libraries to adequately provide services, materials, and maintain facilities, therefore be it resolved that the Association of Vancouver Island Coastal Communities endorse the resolution that the Union of British Columbia Municipalities work with the British Columbia Library Trustees Association to lobby the provincial government to restore grants for the public libraries to 2009 levels, and be it further resolved that the amounts of grants be adjusted annually thereafter to reflect the changes in the Consumer Price Index for British Columbia, and 2, elect not to submit a resolution on carbon offsets, as resolutions on this topic were previously endorsed by the Union of British Columbia municipalities at their 2010 conference, and 3, direct staff to continue to research appropriate wording with regard to a resolution regarding the creation of a conflict of interest commissioner for local governments, with a goal of submitting the resolution to either the Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities for consideration in their 2011 annual general meeting, or the Union of British Columbia municipalities for consideration in their 2011 convention.
Move the recommendations regarding all 3.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Information items only. We have a report from Deputy Chief Mr. Craig Richardson, Operations Nanaimo Fire Rescue, for participation report on Shakeout BC. Someone like to move the information item? We have just one. And seconder? All those in favor? Is any information requested from the report? Mr. Richardson is with us now. I see no questions, sir. Thank you very much. It's just my time is up. Reconsideration of bylaws to be moved by Councillor Unger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that... Is that a microphone?
Certainly, you're on now.
Okay, thank you. I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2010 number 4000.495 to rezone 421 Milton Street from RM9 to RM10 in order to facilitate the construction of a multifamily dwellings past third reading.
I wonder, do we want to do these, Siri Adam? Do we have it?
Yes. Yeah, that's
okay, let's do that. So, discussion on this particular item, 13A, Councillor Bestwick.
I'm not sure if it's been seconded.
No, it hasn't.
Okay, so, you moved it, and Councillor Johnson seconded it to put it on the floor.
Thank you. Is it necessary and or mandatory that we increase to RM10 in order to facilitate this request to staff?
Yes, Your Worship. The applicant has requested the increased density on the property and therefore has applied to move from the RM9 to the RM10.
And at the may I?
Yes, go ahead.
At the RM9, what is permissible under RM9 that isn't under RM10, please?
The topic that seemed to be of concern at the public hearing related to RM9 versus RM10 is building height. In the RM9 zone, a building shall not exceed 7.75 meters or 25.43 feet. In the RM10, the height of buildings is 9.5, not 7.75 meters. So it's in the RM10, they're allowed a taller building. In both zones, though, they are limited to 3 stories.
So then, if I may, so in fact, if it's RM9, they can still have the density, they just can't have the height.
No, he would be restricted to 4 units in the RM9, whereas 5 units in the RM10.
Thank you, Your Worship. On that basis, Your Worship, I will not be supporting this reconsideration.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kipp.
Yeah, Your Worship, my question was on the density issue. RM9 has 4 and 0.65 floor area ratio. This turns to 0.85 floor area ratio. I know from the public information and the number of people are concerned, I find some of our density issues now are going very, very, very dense. And so for this reason, I'd like to see this one go back, and 4 units to me would suit it. I think the neighborhood was quite opposed, a lot of signatures against it. Therefore, I can't support this one as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Oldham.
Thank you, Your Worship. Under some advice from staff, if we support the bylaw at third reading, I just want to give notice that I would be bringing forward bringing forward a motion to direct staff to secure a covenant limiting the height of the proposed buildings to a maximum of 7.75 meters, which would be allowed under the RM9 zone that already exists on that property. But I understand that first we have to adopt the bylaw at third reading before I can make that motion. Is that correct?
If council were to support it at third reading, then that would be appropriate following third reading to direct the restriction on height.
Okay,
so I take that as a yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Councillor Sherry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, at the public hearing, I believe there was 1.5 delegations in favor of the project, and the rest that spoke at the microphone were against it. There was also a petition of 70-odd signatures within the area. Height is the major portion of it, and on the basis of the outcome of the public hearing, I won't be supporting the third reading of this bylaw. I think that with the current zoning in place that would accommodate increase in density there now and would work within the height regulations as the zone. What bothers me is that they indicated, and it's not on this property, but other property within the area there where the council had put a restriction on height and that, and the neighbors seemed to feel that that wasn't adhered to. So those are the concerns.
Thank you. Councillor Johnstone.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I agree with my colleagues. The two duplexes are they're allowed under the RM9, right? They're allowed. It was just the fifth unit, the carriage house that was really a concern of the neighbors. It was going to be the tallest building and the one that impeded the view of the neighbors most seriously. No, I won't be able to support this either, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Patsy.
Thank you, Worship. I am fine with the density that this would create. I have absolutely no problem with it. And as far as I remember, the main message that I got from all the delegations that came to the public hearing was the one where loss of view, the height issue was by far the more important one. So I really can support this, provided then that we then go to Councillor Holdham's proposed motion of putting a covenant to get it down from 9.5 to 7.75. With that, we go down just a little bit over 1.5 meters. I don't think that's a lot. I think that the CRIBA's active and responsible community members that they are can accept that and can work with that, and I think that would be a win-win for everybody. So I will support this motion as it is right now. If it gets defeated, then it gets defeated, but if it passes, then I would support the covenant to restrict the height to 7.75 meters.
Okay. Councillor Holdham.
Your Worship, the more I look at the advice from staff, the less sense I can make out of it. Obviously, the council needs to know whether we are going to approve a covenant to limit the height of the proposed buildings, because that was one of the main reasons why people were opposed to it at the public hearing. And so I have to make this motion as an amendment. So I would move that council direct staff, that the zoning amendment bylaw 2010 number 4000.495 be amended to include a covenant limiting the height of the proposed buildings to a maximum of 7.75 meters, or 3 stories.
Okay. Mr. Kenny, do you want to, or Mr. Tucker, do you want to make a comment? I just want to make sure we're going down the right road here on this one.
I think it's clear what council's direction is to staff.
Okay.
If it passes.
Okay, have you finished on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
No, if I can speak to the amendment just briefly. This just seems to be a reasonable compromise. The density is only 1 unit. It is what makes the project, according to the applicant, financially viable, and it addresses the height issue, which is what worries the people that are just behind on the next street up, as it should, and I think we should try to restrict it.
Okay, Councillor Beswick.
Thank you, Your Worship. May I ask staff if they've had discussion with the applicant whether or not the limited height on the 5th unit, which to me is rather imposing in terms of its density, and I've commented about how dense is dense before, but 5 units to me seems to be a little bit excessive. And I would just ask the question if staff have had the dialogue with the applicant on the 7.75 for the 5th unit or carriage house.
Your Worship, yes. Staff have spoken to the applicant regarding the potential for restriction on height.
And it still is manageable within the reduced height if it were at the RM9 classification?
There would have to be redesign of the building to meet that height limitation, but it's both zones have a 3-story height limitation, so 3 stories is possible within the RM9 height restriction.
Thank you. So there's 2 issues for me, Your Worship. One obviously is the density, and one is the height.
Yeah. Councillor Sherry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, when we go to a public hearing, we take the information forward to the public hearing and we listen to the public. Now we're talking about amending what we took to the public hearing and amending it on the height issue. When would individuals in the community there have the opportunity to come to address council as it relates to the height?
To the amendment.
I believe a number of speakers at the public hearing spoke to that very issue. That the height issue is...
Well, I'll explain myself a little better, Mr. Tucker, is that the major concern, and the neighbors at the back brought pictures of looking out their backyard and with sight lines. Okay? Now, what the biggest thing is, it seems to be the coach house, which brings that height that much closer to their property than the 2 buildings contained in the middle of the property. Okay? So if we're going to play with that height, because it's not just you draw a line at the alleyway and say, well, you can go up 7.5 meters or whatever it is there, you're playing with the average of heights within the boundary of the lot and that to get your heights. Is that correct?
The measurement of height is taken from the average natural grade at the corners of the building.
Yeah. So therefore, it may appear lower than it actually is to the residents.
Your Worship. If I understand the issue correctly, Council is grappling with the input they received at a public hearing as it relates to both density and height. You're well within your rights, if you're not dealing with density, to make adjustments to how you want to approve this rezoning at 3rd reading. If you believe that you're addressing the height issue through a covenant as part of the rezoning, that's fine. I would suggest, though, that if you want to change the density, increase the density, which you're not, we would have to go back to a public hearing.
That's the problem, is when you start mix and match and what we're trying to do here. And as far as I'm concerned, when we heard it wasn't only the height, it was the density that was being mentioned at the public hearing. Thank you.
Do you want to say something, Councillor Bedgie? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Well, I would respectfully disagree with Councillor Sherry that density was the main issue. Density was brought up, but height by far was the more important one of the 2 in my opinion. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Harrison.
I just wanted to comment that the motion that was Councillor Holden put on the floor, the amending motion, was to amend the bylaw to include a covenant, and I don't believe we're actually amending the bylaw. You're looking at including a covenant as part of this process. So I'm wondering if it might actually be better if the motion for 3rd reading be temporarily withdrawn so that you can deal with the issue of the covenant, and then after that motion is made, whether it passes or not, then proceed to third reading. So I'm kind of looking at staff to see if that's the best way to go.
Mr. Swiby, do you have a comment?
Well, there's many times as part of a rezoning application, covenants are identified with how the applicant and council and staff have brought forward an application. There is a little bit semantics, but it's just a matter of that you're going to either give third reading to the bylaw or not give third reading and provide direction that we register a restrictive covenant prior to fourth reading of the bylaw. That's the direction I believe that is typical that you would provide us, and that's what we're understanding that you're trying to do now if the motion passes.
Okay, so
the motion.
That's what I was going to ask.
Could you be voting on?
Well, it's two-part as I understand. If Councillor Hold'em has put forward that he would like third reading considered with the addition that a covenant restricting height be provided by the applicant prior to fourth reading.
Is that correct? Yes. Okay. I just have one question on it. That with that covenant, I heard a lot of concerns myself about the impairment on their view corridor. Will this covenant allow any increase or in the roof height, or will it stay where it is today at the present time?
Your Worship, it would limit building height to what he is permitted under the existing zoning for that site.
But my question is, would that increase the height a bit or zero from what it is now?
It would keep it the same as what he's permitted
Basically,
to build to currently.
Okay. Councillor Kipp.
Clarification on that point, Your Worship. Under the current zoning, it has a maximum height of 20, what was it?
7.75.
Yeah, 7.75, 27 feet. Under RM9, it goes to...
RM10.
RM10, sorry, it goes...
to 9.5.
9.5 meters. So if it stayed the same right now, it would only be allowed to be 7.5 meters. If we pass this, it'll pass this, it'll be allowed to go to 9, theoretically, unless we put the covenant on.
That's which is the motion?
I still have trouble with it.
Okay.
Could I just clarify, just for Councillor Kipp, that the motion, as I understand, is to pass the bylaw at third reading but restrict the height to the 7.75 by covenant?
You registered before fourth. Yeah.
Okay, everyone clear on that one? All right, on the motion, all those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Sherry opposed. Councillor Kipp opposed. Balance of council. Oh, Councillor Bestwick opposed.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. And so balance of council in favor, so it passes, period, passes. So now we're going to be going along with Councillor Ungar. You're going to pick it up at B, are you?
No, just for clarification, did we vote on the amendment or did we vote on the whole motion?
Go ahead, Ms. Harrison.
It was put forward as an amending motion to include the covenant.
Okay, so now we have to vote on
my
the
understanding
main
is we still need to vote on the main motion.
On the main motion, okay.
Thank you.
So on the main motion as amended, all those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Bestwick, Councillor Sherry, and Councillor Kipp opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw 2011, number 6500.014, to add a site-specific policy to permit a 5-unit multiple-family residential development at 421 Milton Street pass third reading.
Second. Moved and seconded. I see no discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Bestwick, Councillor Sherry, and Councillor Kipp opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes.
That sign amendment bylaw number 2011, number 7120, to regulate LED signs be adopted.
I'd like to second that.
Okay. Motions. I see no further questions. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Sherry is opposed. Balance of council is in favor. Thank you very much. I want to thank council for it. This is a difficult one, and I'm not being facetious here. It was a very difficult struggle, and I want to appreciate those that supported and those that didn't, because it has passed, and I think it's a significant achievement, and I want to thank those involved. Go ahead.
I move that the financial plan bylaw 2011 number 7121 to confirm and adopt the financial plan be adopted, and that's our budget.
Second the motion. Moved and seconded. I see no questions. All those in favor? Opposed? I have Councillor Bessick opposed, Councillor Kipp opposed, and Councillor Sherry opposed. Balance of council in favor. Motion passes.
I move that Parks, Recreation and Culture Commission Amendment Bylaw 2010 number 7020.03 to replace section 7.1 regarding the inaugural meeting be adopted.
Second the motion. I see no questions. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Introduction of bylaws.
I move that Fire Protection and Life Safety Regulation Bylaw 2011 number 7108 to regulate fire protection and life safety and provide emergency services pass first reading.
Second. Moved and seconded. I see Councillor Kipp.
Yeah, Your Worship, thank you very much. A few concerns with the bylaw, more of the wording of it, and I've talked to some of the staff about it. And if you can indulge me on this, page 221 of our handout. Okay, the word incident. Typically in emergency management we have an event or an incident, and I relate to, say, the event of an earthquake, and within that event there can be a number of incidents. You could have a hazardous material spill, car crashes, building collapses, all sorts of things. So I wish somehow we could work into it, and I know a lot of this comes from the Fire Commission's office, but I wish we could somehow work the word event in and incident, because under, for example, when we want to take people's equipment, we talk about an incident, but I wonder if it would encompass the whole event. I'm not sure if the staff could change that at this time. Page 228, flipping through. Okay, 228, frequency of inspections to be delegated for public buildings, and it represents in there in part 15.1 on page 228, it talks about the fact that there's public buildings in it. If I refer to the next page, 16 fire drills, public buildings aren't related to it, and I really wish there was somehow, so that I knew that our pools and our different arenas and city facilities were looking at those plans too, and mandated to do those type of evacuations, which I don't think they are. The second one, back to page 228, 15.2, the fire chief must report to the council as and when requested by council on the inspection system created and implemented under section 15.1. I don't understand why we would have to ask for that and it wouldn't be just a regular report. Is that a typical thing from the Fire Commission, that we ask for that report? Or would there be...
Who wants to do that?
We ask for reports from any staff.
Your Worship, I'll hand it over to my colleagues, but my understanding is that's just a typical wording that we would have in the bylaw.
That suffices to me. I think that's all I talked about. The only other ones, there's one, the big stopper for me, page 234, under burning permits. This bylaw does not, or the way this is presented, does not allow for the average person to have a fire in their yard to cook hot dogs, marshmallows. I totally understand that our crews go out typically and some clown, for lack of a better word, who thinks he's really funny, is burning crap and garbage and debris. It's a low smoke fire, and then when the fire department comes around and he pulls out a couple hot dogs and pretends they're doing it. It's absolutely frustrating. It's ridiculous that they do that with our burning laws and things that have been in place for so long. But I do know that we have cultural fires that are available by permit. So I have a concern when I personally, or people I know, can't have a fire. They can have coal fires and barbecue fires and things, but not being able to have an open fire is a concern for me. And I have trouble supporting the bylaw because of that. Thank you.
I think that last item is very clear. It says, no person shall, who has been issued a burning permit for a special event, shall ignite or maintain a fire, except on the dates and times permitted on the permit.
Special event.
Yeah.
If I can have a follow-up to that, nowhere is it, if I can ask the fire people representing us here, a typical house fire for a family is not a special event, am I correct?
That's correct.
So I wouldn't be allowed to have a special event fire permit to have a bonfire at my house to roast weenies or hot dogs.
That's correct.
I can't support the bylaw. Thank you.
Councillor Holden.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. When we were discussing this earlier in one of the rehearsals we have, somebody said that the cultural fires were still in the bylaw, and I've gone over it and over it. I can't find it, and the answer to Councillor Kipp's question makes up my mind. I think we're going too far with this bylaw in restricting what people can do, and I can't support it either.
Okay, is there an opinion being generated here, or are we...
Your Worship, this is the kind of issue, all the issues that Councillor Kipp is bringing forward, Council needs to decide collectively whether you'd like to amend the bylaw and provide direction to staff in that regard. Or send the whole bylaw back, and we'll take it under consideration and bring it back for Council's consideration.
Okay.
Move we refer back to staff.
Second.
Okay. On the referral then, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So it'll be referred back to staff.
Introduction of development bylaws. That I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2011 number 4000.496 to rezone part of 6553 Portsmouth Road from P2 to CD7 in order to facilitate the construction of a mixed-use development, pass first reading.
Moved and seconded. I see no questions. All those in favor? Opposed?
I move that zoning amendment bylaw 4000.496 pass second reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2011 number 4000.498 to rezone part of 1512 Frew Road and part of 1072 Cedar Road from RM3 to RS1 in order to facilitate a single-family subdivision pass first reading.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded. I see no questions. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2011 number 4000.498 pass second reading.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2011 number 4000.499 to rezone part of 2469 Labio Road and 2368 Barclay Road from RS1 and RM3 to RM3 in order to facilitate the construction of a multifamily dwellings pass first reading.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded. I see no questions. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Move that zoning amendment bylaw 2011 number 4000.499 pass second reading.
Second motion. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. We have bylaw status sheet and then into correspondence.
Move receipt of the correspondence.
Okay. No questions on that. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We're moving down to delegations. We've passed that by. We actually have seen all three of them. So now we're down to question period to agenda items only.
Unless Hannah Dunbar is here.
Yeah, I might just ask a good question. Did Ms. Dunbar